Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, or good night, or good evening, or good early morning to everyone. Welcome to Kasyanno, EZMath. We have new topic on the board, the derivation of quadratic formula. X is equals minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. So quadratic formula, we normally use this in at school in finding the value of the variable, but it's seldom derived at school class sessions. And before we begin, what is the meaning of the quadratic formula? What is that quadratic formula? So we get to define quadratic formula. So the definition, or my own definition, or everybody's definition should run like this way. A quadratic formula is a formula in solving the value of the variable, like in this case, value of x, variable x, in a quadratic equation. The formula is normally used whenever factoring a quadratic equation to find the value of the variable fails. This means that the quadratic equation being considered is not factorable. So this quadratic formula is indispensable in finding the value of the variable in a quadratic equation. And a quadratic equation is defined as an equation with a polynomial with a second degree. In other words, the variable has the highest exponent of 2. Let's say, in this case, x squared. So in that case, that represents the degree of the polynomial, second degree. That's called a quadratic equation. Okay, so let's go ahead and start deriving the quadratic formula. Okay, so to start the derivation, I have labeled this the quadratic formula over here, and we start with the quadratic equation in the form of these variables arranged: ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, where a is the coefficient of the first term, b coefficient of the second term, and c stands for constant, equals 0. So the quadratic equation. In the derivation of this quadratic formula, we start with quadratic equation. So let's write it down over here again, and we simplify. All we have to do is remove the coefficient of a over here. So let's do that. So all we have to do is divide the whole term with divided by a. So that becomes x squared plus b over a, x plus c over a equals 0. The next one is x squared plus b over a, x. Then we move this constant from the left to the right. So that becomes negative c over a. And here we have to find the third term, completing the squares to make it a perfect square. Right? So in here, by completing the square, we get to find the third term of this polynomial. So in completing the square, think of a constant value that would fit on here on the third term to make this polynomial a perfect square. So let's do that by doing, we call factoring, right? To find the value of the third term, let's do it like this. So variable x, think of a third term that fits in here to make the sum of the product of the ins and outs of these two factors in parentheses over here. So we have this constant represented by b over a. So let's start with that, b over a. And now if you add this up, the ins and outs of these terms of these two factors in the parentheses, we should end up to the coefficient of x in the second term b over a. So if you do that, so b over ax times 2. So since you're adding, that will be just 2b over a. So it's not b over a. So what does it mean by that? So we should divide it by 2 then, right? So that means if we get to over 2a instead, let's do that. If you just make that divided by 2a instead of a, if you add this up, we'll arrive at the coefficient of the second term, b over a. Is that right? So multiply these ins and outs of these two factors. Okay, so b over 2a x plus the outside, so b over 2a x. So what's coming out to now? So just double it, right? So that's 2 times b over 2a x. That will become cancelled 2. And what we have left? So b over ax, right? Okay, so that's what we have right there. And now we take a look. So this b over ax is now the second term of this. So that's what in there. So we have to adapt this one right here. If you have to make this a perfect square, or we go down to boil down to well, actually the sign right here is positive and positive on that, since the value of the sign of the second term is positive. Okay, so that this makes two factors over here as x plus b over 2a squared. So that becomes x plus b over 2a squared. And then the term, the outside terms, becomes b over 2a. That should be squared, right? So we verified the third term. That should be b over 2a squared.
It's the same as multiplying b over 2a by itself twice.
So let's go back to this and supply that to that. So x squared plus b over ax plus this one right here. So b over 2a squared equals minus c over a plus this one right here, b over 2a squared. Now, if you add something or any value on the left side of the equation, you need to add the same value to the right of the equation so you won't alter the value of the equation. So from here, all we have to do is simplify this. So this becomes like on here, and we arrive at this portion right here. By doing this, completing these squares, we have added the third term. So this equivalent to, so this one right here. So x plus b over 2a squared equals minus c over a plus b squared over, so b squared divided by 2 times 2 squared is 4, a squared. So I have rewritten this equation again over here, and we got to do is simplify. Now let's go ahead and simplify the right term of the equation. I will do butterfly method, crisscross multiplication. So that comes out to 4a squared c, so minus 4a squared c plus ab squared divided by 4a cubed, 4a squared times a is 4a cubed. Now we gotta factor out a from the denominator, the numerator. So that will become a times 4ac minus, and then plus b squared over 4a cubed equals cancel out, become 2. So that becomes minus 4ac plus b squared divided by 4a squared. So we have to go down here now. X plus b over 2a squared is equals minus 4ac plus b squared all over 4a squared. Now we have a second power, the exponent 2 over here. How are we going to remove the power over there? I mean the exponent. All we have to do is square root this term, right? Get the square root of this and get the square root of this too. So to get rid of that exponent 2 right there, right? Since let's say a value of a exponent 2, if you want to get rid of that exponent, all you have to do is find the square root, right? Since the square root, it stands for 1/2 exponent, so that is equivalent to a squared times the exponent 1/2. So this cancels, becomes 1. So that becomes a to the first power, or a. So that's the same thing on here. So that will be the same thing on this. So this becomes x plus b over 2a equals the square root of this. And so let's arrange at the same time. That becomes b squared minus 4ac square root of divided by 4a squared. But since getting the square root, you got two values, positive and negative, right? Getting the values of getting the square root of the number, getting two values, positive and negative. So we'll have positive and negative values on that. So we'll go and simplify further. So that becomes positive and negative. Since if you notice the denominator over here, that means the square root of that too. So that is square root of b squared. That's 4ac. That is the same as the square root of 4a squared. That's the denominator. So we simplify it further over here. So the square root of 4a squared is equal to 2a. Now we have arrived at this point where we can write down over here again. So plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all divided by 2a. And we just write this down again over here. X plus b over 2a. And now we arrive at this point that all we have to do is transpose this constant value over here represented by b over 2a to the right side of the equation. So x is equal to positive, or you put it on the other side, become negative. So that's minus b over 2a plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. And now x squared. X is equal to, if you notice, they have the same denominator over here now. So we just combine this. The numerator becomes minus b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So now if you notice, this is the quadratic formula already. So we have derived the quadratic formula. So that is minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. That's the value of x. So that's the quadratic formula. QF. So we have just derived the quadratic formula. X is equals to minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. And if you compare, what we have derived is the same. Minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. So that ends our lecture for today. So thanks for watching, and if you are a math student or person trying to learn or relearn math or algebra, I encourage you to subscribe to my channel so you would not miss any of my algebra or math videos uploaded in the future, since I'm regularly and on a weekly basis uploading algebra course lessons on YouTube. The same way on related videos on math mastery and problem solving. Alright guys, you all guys have a great day. Maraming salamat po.